Hey, I'm Connor,
Hey, I'm Rutledge.
and we're Friends Stream Sports, and boy, am I happy to be back.
Welcome back, Connor. We know you were out, but now you're back. Of course, last week Anna Marie and I talked about uh, all things sports music, including I want your on the air, non prepared take on this. Which is a better song to hear at a baseball game? Sweet Caroline or Take Me Out to the Ball Game? If you could hear only one at a baseball game, which one would you choose?
If I could hear only one at a baseball game, I would love to be able to hear um, Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Sweet Caroline, although good solid song, Take Me Out to the Ball Game is just, um, it's iconic. You think about all the teams that do that. Doesn't matter if you're in Oakland or really outside of the city of Boston. That song is getting played and it's getting played well. So that is what I'm going with.
That was the same one that I picked, and I had the argument with Anna Marie. I'm like, what do you think Yankees fans would pick? They're not going to pick Sweet Caroline.
No doubt, no doubt.
They're
So
going to definitely pick Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
did you see Rutledge actually recently? Speaking of baseball, they had a Savannah Bees player introduce himself before his at bat.
Yeah, the Savannah Bananas, which actually play my local town, Augusta Green Jackets, are a very well supported uh, minor league team in the Georgia area. Himself.
No doubt. That's a ton of fun, man. Ton of fun, and what's also a ton of fun is, um, you know, we're feeling pretty gold right here in the United States. I don't know about you, but the U.S. men's national team has done quite well for themselves over these past two tournaments that they've been involved in.
It's amazing to see them put two things in the trophy case for the men's national team. I am so proud of the team that we have. Of course, there's lots to see with the performance. We know that this past tournament, the the starters that play in European leagues did not perform. So it was good to see the team, like you said last time you were on, Connor, kind of see who's going to step up and go out there and who's going to really sort of make an impact. So feels good to watch them hoist back-to-back trophy cups. The World Cup qualifiers, we're getting started with that soon, aren't we?
That we are, and definitely a ton of great momentum. This Gold Cup, there were some games that I think Greg Berhalter in a lot of ways tried to do the high wire act. It was really interesting because the Nations League final against Mexico, he had his definite um, he definitely had his A team out there for sure, but then when it came ready for the um, Gold Cup as opposed to Nations League, you know, his A team guys, his Weston McKinney's, his Christian Pulisic's, his Josh Sargent's, all those guys, they were getting ready for the European seasons, as you said. So there was a lot of lineups that were most definitely the B team lineups, but they for sure came ready to play. So, it was. I think Greg Berhalter, just at least for the character of this team, got a lot of questions answered. Now, I think that unfortunately there still are the same question marks coming out of the Gold Cup as there were going into the Gold Cup, but just a ton of great momentum for sure. So, Rutledge, in your opinion, does beating Mexico in these past two finals does this mean that the men's national team are now leaders in CONCACAF in the confederation that um, United States plays in?
Definitely going to say on paper, absolutely yes. And for those out there that may think, well, is Mexico a big deal of a victory? We have to remember that Mexico during the last World Cup was no slouch of a team, and they held some players and some teams pretty close. So I think this is great momentum for the USA team to lead. I really think, though, and like you bring it up, we have the same question marks. I'm still worried about it was that right back defender position we've been talking about all this time, right, Connor?
Mm-hmm.
And that is the thing that, yes, we can do in CONCACAF. And CONCACAF is not a bad division of soccer, but I liken us to kind of like, for a lot of our viewers out there are big college football fans. CONCACAF in the soccer world, it's definitely not your SEC, or it's not your Big Ten. Sure, we won our conference, and this is a great win, but it's without that right back position locked up. I'm a little nervous about when I think we will be in the World Cup for sure, but I'm worried about what that team looks like facing off against some big other World Cup profiles. Names that come to mind, of course, are the ones in South America, like Argentina and Brazil. Even if we get Coast of Ivories in our group. So there's still some work to be done, even though the rockets of red glare and the stars are bursting in the air for the men's national team.
Did you say Coast of Ivories?
Yes. Was that?
Did you hear that?
Was that a ding?
That was your first miss. It's Ivory Coast.
Ivory Coast. They could be the Coast of Ivories.
I may or may not have bought a bell. As opposed to saying ding, I have a bell right next to my controller, so when we're ready to play and get after it, don't worry, it's now official, the official FriendStream Sports bell.
I don't think it came through on mine. I'm going to say it again. Coast of Ivories. You dirty dog.
There it is. So speaking of Rutledge, speaking of big, big teams and things like that, have you seen the latest FIFA World Rankings?
I have, of course, but I know our viewers have not. Give it to the people, Connor.
All right. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to share some of the top 10 FIFA World Rankings updated for August of 2021. And I'll go through, I'll read the top 10, and then, what I'll do real quick is just kind of share some of my takes on these. So, number one team in the world right now, according to FIFA, is Belgium. We have number 2, Brazil. Number 3, France. Number 4, England. Number 5, Italy. Number 6, Argentina. Number 7, Spain. Number 8, Portugal. Number 9, USA. And number 10, Mexico. So in this,
What about Coast of Ivories?
Coast of Ivories did not crack the top 10, even though they are a good team in the African division. I think that these FIFA World Rankings, as you could tell, gave a ton of nods to CONMEBOL and really the UEFA leagues, the European Football Association, with a little bit to CONCACAF, which actually there's just as many CONCACAF teams as there are CONMEBOL teams. So I don't know what that tells you, besides the fact that CONMEBOL is just pretty top-heavy. But tons and tons of European teams, but that kind of makes sense. The Euro tournament definitely is a lot more difficult to win than a Gold Cup, even though it's no slouch. I think one of the things about playing soccer in in the Americas is that it seems to be a little bit more of a physical game, a little bit more of a chippy game. There's you've got guys with less to lose and are going to put it all out there on the field and throw some pretty hard fouls. So, so with that, my quick takes here on the top 10 FIFA World Cup World Rankings. I think that I am so surprised, and maybe I just pulled this off the internet and I got a bad FIFA ranking list, but I think that these rankings are pretty much absolutely garbage. The fact that you have...
Wow.
The fact that you have Italy at number 5, who just won the Euros and did it in pretty spectacular fashion. I know they had a lot of penalty shootouts. It's not like they won every game 5-0, but won. And not only did they win, but they had to win in Wembley. And for all of the tough and difficult times and things that the fans were giving you know, that they had, the Italy came and they won, as opposed to it's coming home, as our dear central defending friend Chiellini said, it's coming to Rome. So I think it's a crock that Italy is number 5, and England number 4. The fact that France only fell 1 spot to number 3, pretty underwhelming Euro performance. Brazil somehow ended up gaining a spot, going from number 3 to number 2, and Belgium retained their top spot. So, the biggest drop was Portugal going from number 5 to number 8, which kind of makes sense. I could have seen and would have liked to have seen a lot more drops like that. But Rutledge, I think in a lot of ways this tells us a few things. Number one is that in world soccer, you for sure have the haves and the have-nots, right? Outside of the USA, which jumped 11 spots, the largest margin of movement was 3 spots. So not a ton of shakeup throughout these world rankings. And, there's not really a dark horse team in here. All of these teams really, yet again, minus the United States, but the United States does have a lot of talented players, are teams that and just big brand names, right? To kind of liken it to college football, usually in the top 10, you've got kind of that one team that you don't really know about. You've got that Grayson McCall Coastal Carolina squad, right? You've got the Boise State teams, if you will, kind of from the mid 2000s, and it's a lot of big countries and a lot of teams that you know about. So. Would love to see more of a challenge. I think next year's World Cup, I think that you will see some of these larger teams that are brand names kind of take a step back. Here's my first hot take on the World Cup, is that you will see some big brand names really officially take a step back. This Belgian team that somehow is number 1 in the world, a lot of their big-time players are getting older and kind of ending their careers. Argentina, Messi cannot be around forever. So I think that next year might be his very, very last gasps. But who knows? It is Messi. He is pretty much an alien, so he might be able to stick around a little bit longer. Who knows how long the central defense of Italy can stick around? Donnarumma in goal is a young guy, and that's awesome. But having those 2 center backs right in front of Donnarumma definitely helped. Out of this list, I think Spain is probably most able to make a big jump ahead, as even though they do have some old players, they do have a few nice young players peppered in there. So yeah, it's an interesting world ranking list that I see here. Glad to see the U.S. in the top 10, but I sure hope that they do not listen and read their press clippings.
I certainly hope they listen and read our show, because at the end of the day, we're supporting them. Speaking of supporting, I want to give a huge shout out to a massive non-traditional, and I'm going to call it non-traditional win, but our Orlando City Lions overcame getting an early 1-0 goal lead by Joseph Martinez within the first minute, and being near Georgia. My phone exploded, and it was great to see Nani and company, including more out of Vanderwater, who I just love, see them come back and really start to make a difference. I'm excited to see that this Lions team is starting to battle. Of course, we still have some key people out, but it feels really good to see that we're not in our normal summer slump to where we sort of fell off and fell apart.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's for those who don't know, I was out of the country, so with a large time change, so I did not get to watch the game live. But when I woke up the next morning, it was awesome to see that it was a big time victory. Coming from behind, being able to answer off of that Joseph Martinez goal. For those who might not know, Orlando City has what they usually refer to as the summer swoon, where they just cannot get a cannot get a man got a sack there. Good night. Um, cannot get a win there during the summer, but they were able to pull one off. So definitely really excited for that. Rutledge, let me ask you this: have you? I think some of the biggest stats as it relates to Orlando City is actually some of their player personnel that it might be leaving the squad. Have you been following some of these personnel stories?
We definitely had a lot of motion going around. Of course, the one that hurts us is Chris Mueller, who has been such an impactful member of our team, will eventually leave the squad at the end of his contract. Besides that, once I saw that trade come through, I really turned off my trade notifications for a solid week because that wouldn't hurt me deep. Connor, who else are you watching go away?
Yeah, so we have Chris Mueller, which kind of the head scratching move going to Hibernian. Is interesting when they said, "Oh, Chris Mueller is going to be headed to a European team," and you're kind of thinking, "Oh, well, must be a team from kind of the quote Big Five leagues," and having so close.
Oh.
I went for it on fourth down, no good. Um, but that Hibernian move kind of is a little bit of a head scratcher. But he's got an agent and he's got folks that he's got to answer to. So, the other thing, there is some news. I guess Junior Urso is wanting to go back to Brazil. So potentially we might see a Junior Urso move. Apparently, Porto, the Portuguese side, has offered $9.5 million. There's a $9.5 million offer for Daryl Dike. So there is some definite potential players moving. So it'll be interesting to watch Orlando City how they respond, and maybe some news coming out as this season progresses.
Definitely happy to see where they're going and seeing in the right direction. Speaking of changes, while we had gone through, we're winding through our first quarter here, but then hit NBA.com today at 3:20 this afternoon. Carmelo Anthony is heading to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, can you believe that?
He has signed a one-year deal with the Lakers, which was brought by Adrian Wojnarowski. He's the latest addition to the revamped Lakers roster, which is going to include Russell Westbrook, Dwight Howard, as well as others. Kent Bazemore, Malik Monk, Wayne Ellington. We all think about who is going to come in and win free agency in the draft, and I would love the LA Lakers, but after they added Westbrook, it just seemed like just the beginning to where they're really pushing hard to make a run, and especially with Chris Paul. Oh, look, we made a field goal. Chris Paul and Kawhi still lengthening out their contracts over in that division. It looks like that either LeBron's trying to do one more run in the tank, or he sat down with the front office and basically took the roster that he had and said, this ain't working.
Well, I don't know if you saw, Chris Paul did sign that 4-year, $120 million extension. So Chris Paul did sign. But, yeah, I think Carmelo was very interesting for sure. The big piece to consider there, though, is you add Carmelo, you add Russell Westbrook, you add Dwight Howard, a lot of big names, but potentially it's kind of asking, man, how is this really going to work? Is this a situation where you've got a lot of old players and you're trying to get these guys together for one last run? And even though a lot of old players do play better in the playoffs, you still have to work through the regular season. Is this LeBron wanting to play kind of quote unquote with family? There's a lot of big questions there. So definitely very interesting to see how this all shook out.
Yeah, big to see if they're going to feed all those egos. I think now that you have added some bench depth, I think bringing back Dwight Howard, which you know how he fit into that system with LeBron. When I had first heard that it was just Russell Westbrook coming, I will say I personally downplayed this trade a little bit. Russell Westbrook I was talking to someone about it, and they're like, "Well, how do you feel about it?" I said, "Well, we're just going to basically make Russell Westbrook the new Chris Bosh of the LA Lakers. He's going to be there. He's just going to be a piece player because as we saw in Washington, even though he was having lights out massive numbers with Bradley Beal, um, didn't the roster around him and just the team, he wasn't doing well because the team was well, he was carrying it. So now, though, that you've added this extra Carmelo pieces, Dwight Howard pieces, and adding what was the biggest problem for the Lakers this season, which was just bench depth. Now that you've been adding that, I'm interested to see how it goes.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. You say that Russell Westbrook would be just the Chris Bosh. I mean, would Russell Westbrook just be the Chris Bosh? Do you think that would work? Russell Westbrook is not known to defer. He is one who loves the ball.
You know, and that's where, to your point, I agree with also what you're saying, is I think unless he gets to defer, and, what are they going to do? Are they going to put AD in the paint? Westbrook is going to be running the ball a lot, and LeBron just going to be kind of calling the shots and being that coach LeBron that we've seen him be. And then plus in sub in Carmelo and Dwight Howard where you need to get in those key pieces. It will be like most LeBron James teams are, where it won't be until after Christmas that we see this team kind of gel, pending that they don't have any injury issues. Does AD get hurt again? Does LeBron get hurt again? Do they take as much rest as they did this time and try to cram it in the playoffs, which we saw didn't work with how great Phoenix was in the West? So that was huge. I'd also like to mention that another thing which I was sad to see happen was Kyle Lowry leaving Toronto, which definitely means that legacy of Kyle Lowry and, of course, Kawhi's been gone. But it felt a little bit to watch sort of the old guard truly 100% crumble, to which now, once again, Canadian sports are falling back into mediocrity. So just know that it hurt my Maple Fueled heart a little bit, Connor, to see that.
Oh, I could only imagine, dear Rutledge. It was a definite, I think that in some ways the Raptors are sort of just having a rebuild, and, Kyle Lowry is just not necessarily a part of plans, and, can only imagine what it's like being in Toronto. The Raptors have been able to raise one title, but, there's something that I like to think about in sports, and I call it the time value of winning. Right? In money and finance, the kind of the world that I work in, you've got a thing called the time value of money, which means that $1 today is more valuable than $1 tomorrow. And I think that a win today, is more valuable than a win tomorrow. But a win tomorrow is more valuable than a win 2 days from now. So I think the question is always, man, would Kyle Lowry be a part of the team moving forward? Is this the right move for what the Raptors want to get done? And the Raptors decided no. And it'll be interesting to watch and see how they kind of shake all that out.
Be interesting to see for sure, as well as Orlando has added a great addition on this off season. They may win some games. Who did Orlando pick up over this time, Connor?
So in the first round of the playoffs, and by the way, let's see, we haven't played Madden here in a long time, and let's see if we make the kick. Made the first kick after a long Madden hiatus. Check it out.
Look at him go.
In the draft, going into the draft, Magic had the 5th pick and the 7th pick, and the 5th pick was obviously the big one, and there were 4 players initially that it was kind of said, okay, these are the main guys. And Jalen Suggs was in there, and the Magic were kind of just on the outside of the top guys in a draft that was very deep. So in the weirdest of ways, the Orlando Magic at the number 5 pick ended up with Jalen Suggs, somebody that there was a lot of really smart people in the room that said could have been the number 1 overall pick. So, but besides that, and Mo Wagner, I think in the draft, the Magic did very, very well.
I'm very interested to see how Orlando rebounds. We both know that. And it's one of those sports moments that we just remember where we were when Orlando gutted everything seeing can they rebound because of their choices. I have a good feeling about it. I think maybe they'll be a little better. You know, someone though that has a lot of pressure is number 1 overall pick, who we called the whole time, and it was sort of writing on the wall, is Cade Cunningham. So definitely interesting to see how he fits and how he flies high. Connor, what's your sort of prediction for the addition of Cade Cunningham?
I think that with this Cade Cunningham pick at number one, obviously, he's just a man, right? He's one of those guys who he's the antithesis of Giannis, right? Giannis came into the league and he had to grow not just physically but also literally in stature. I think he grew like 3 inches, after his first couple years. Cade Cunningham's coming in as a 6'7" just beastoid, and being able to come in and go right out of the chutes to do that is going to be really critical. I think that unfortunately the Detroit Pistons are not run very well right now, so I think that he's going to have, hopefully they're going to be able to put some nice pieces around him, or it could be a real situation a few years into his contract. He's already starting to have grumblings of being unhappy. So be very interesting to see. I think Cade Cunningham can very well come in and make an impact, and if the Pistons just put a little bit of help around him, I think he should perform very well.
Definitely going to need that. And I know you want to see some of those Pistons throwback unis hit the hardwood every once in a while. I want to take some time as does this run play falls apart. Say hey to Steven. Steven the Steady is back once again, and shout out to all of our viewers for coming out to French Stream Sports tonight at 8 o'clock. But I think you're right. He is a beast of a man who needs to be a little bit more supported in a good organization. Would you liken him more to okay, so here's an interesting take. With people in the organizations, would you liken his situation to more of Luka or more of Dame time, game time, where they're in an organization and they're going to have to, or Zion, so one of the three? What would you feel like he's coming into this situation?
You definitely not like Luka. Luka is, it's Luka Doncic is in the situation in Dallas that is very similar to their football team, actually, where the owner might be the best, the most notable person there, even in a team of stars. So not like Luka. You said Luka, Zion, and who else?
Damian Lillard.
Lillard. Don't necessarily think it's like Dame. I think the number one comparison would be a little bit more like Zion, in that it's not necessarily it's just kind of a mess of an organization right now, and time will need to tell if they can put some good pieces around Cade Cunningham, and hopefully they do. Hopefully it doesn't get hurt, right? I think in some ways there's folks who've said that Cade Cunningham could be the second coming of Grant Hill, which would be a ton of fun. And OBJ is just eating me alive over the middle. Good job there, Baker Mayfield. And, being able to have those, being able to have that kind of play is going to be a really, really important piece for Detroit, which, Detroit could be a really good basketball town. They just haven't been in a long time. They had their sort of unsung hero team with with Ben Wallace and Rip Hamilton. I remember those squads, but now it's they haven't had much to be really excited about over the past decade.
No, it has been a long time since. Well, actually, if you talk about Detroit, it's been a long time since Motor City has had to be excited about anything, because the Red Wings have been down, the Lions are the Lions. Oh, look at that disrespect from Odell Beckham Jr. He just cold stares and then he dances. Look at him go. That was beautiful. But relish with the slant. It would be interesting to see if Detroit gets a win. I take them as, they just need that kind of. Same thing as with Milwaukee, how they banded around the Bucks. We know Detroit would band around the Pistons. I also would like to bring up that with all the other offseason moves, the team to me that I think you need to watch is not the Los Angeles Lakers, but is someone that we are very familiar with on this show, and that is the Miami Heat. And I think it all talks about with Heat culture, which Connor, I know you're a big fan of, getting Jimmy Butler that max deal, making some other moves and putting in some other pieces. But I have a good feeling about this Heat roster. I think they did the right things at the right times.
You see, they just added P.J. Tucker.
I know.
That's huge.
So it's huge. So it'll be
huge.
And especially for them to where, and they got to the playoffs, and while there was some COVID protocol and that team never seemed to kind of gel, to see them take a serious approach to adding in some right pieces for the roster, I think has really excited me to watch what they're going to do. And it shows a lot of faith that, that organization still knows what it's doing. We all, you would think, oh, LeBron James and being around, but LeBron James being gone, them not having it, then them coming to the finals where they a one and done. But I really think they're going to be a contender next year. I think a lot of the drama and the pay attention is going to be, of course, over in the Pacific Division with the Clippers, the Lakers, the Warriors, and the Suns, because I don't think the Suns are going to fall off. But I think Miami is going to be one of the teams to really kind of watch in the East, as everyone's going to, of course, stare at Brooklyn, and they'll have a lot of attention, especially since they locked up Blake Griffin for one more year. But I think they will be a team to reckon with. They'll be white hot next year.
Oh, those white hot Heat! There's going to be a lot of good basketball being played in the state of Florida. The ability for the Heat to, and don't forget that, especially with PJ Tucker, and the Heat were a team that lacked that size and physicality. They played really well, but they were just small, right? That's what exposed them in the finals, and I think that's what really hurt them against Milwaukee. So what did they do? They went and took the guy that Milwaukee was was kind of their big bruiser of a player. So being able to have that kind of an impact, I think, is a really, really important piece.
Who do you think is going to be a bigger deal for Miami next year, Kyle Lowry or Jimmy Butler? I will say the addition of Kyle Lowry to give my take ahead of time, just because of how much he was instrumental with really being there for Kawhi during the time against the Warriors.
I still see Jimmy Butler as being the dude down there in Miami. It's because it's not just about putting the ball in the basket, although he's obviously very capable at doing that. Not just about that, but that leadership, that capability of playing defense, that capability of getting the right guys in the right situation. And they still have some young guys out there, with Tyler Hero. Folks like, was it Duncan Robinson? He's kind of a young guy, if I'm not mistaken. So being able to have that sort of leadership mentality, I think Kyle Lowry is definitely coming into Jimmy Butler's team.
Oh, for sure, Jimmy Butler's team, but I think it will be – I don't think Kyle Lowry is going to take it away from him, but I think you're going to see them – I think you're going to see them in press conferences together, kind of like you remember when Westbrook and KD used to do press conferences together, like they were just best friends at a school assembly or something.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely think they're going to gel really well. So I'm excited about it. I wish, of course, the Summer League is getting ready to get started. Kyler Murray is still aggravating me. We still remember, that was a Michael Jackson thing.
Sure was.
Sure was. We remember how much I don't like him. But I'm excited to see what basketball is going to do. I'm also excited that football is back. The Hall of Fame game is this weekend, isn't it?
It's coming up. We are right here in football season is starting, Rutledge. I think that we should give ourselves and our listeners and our viewers a nice pat on the back. We have officially made it from the end of a football season to the beginning of another football season.
Yes, Hall of Fame game is Thursday, so 2 nights, 8 o'clock, Cowboys versus Steelers, and then the preseason will start after that. But I'm with you. This will also mean that coming at the end of this month, ladies and gentlemen, we will be celebrating 1 year of FriendStream Sports.
Woo!
That
Bring out the cake.
bring out the Connor. I'll mail you a slice.
Oh, please do. My man.
It'll be red velvet cake.
Oh, good. You know me. That's my favorite.
It's my favorite too. That's why we're real friends, real sports, really working our way to this first half on this monster show that we have here
Celebrating
live.
football. Speaking of football, Rutledge, give us your quick one-sentence take on Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC.
Can't wait.
Whoa, that was quicker than even I anticipated.
Of course, last week I did a big bunch of segments on that. Gonna be really interesting to see the schedule, but I'm excited to see the Texas A&M game back together. I'm excited to see Missouri get out of the East finally. It'll almost be like a mini Big 12 as what they have with the 4 teams. And it's gonna be fun to watch Oklahoma play Alabama and LSU throughout the season. So I'm hyped. I'm hyped about it. Speaking of hyped about it, and all hyped up, Connor, it is time for a halftime hot take. But this halftime hot take is developed and ready and hand roasted for you by a great partnership that we have with Daddles Coffee.
Oh, Rutledge, Daddles Coffee, a great artisan brewed coffee company that takes their profits and gets to put some of those towards research for the King Charles Spaniel, help those dogs fight heart disease, and it's a pretty good cup of coffee if I do say so myself. I'm very surprised I'm still up. Part of that is that I'm fueled by Daddles Coffee.
You definitely have to get you some Daddles Coffee by going to daddlescoffee.com. That's DADDLES coffee.com. And because of how great we love this partnership with this Winter Garden, Florida company, they are working with us. We're giving all of our viewers and listeners 15% off your first order. So when you go and pick up your products, they do bagged coffee. They also do K-Cups. At checkout, make sure to use our promo code FSS, short for FriendStream Sports, FSS, for 15% off.
Oh yeah, good old Daddles. A great cup for a great cause with all the paws.
So good. Speaking of so good, Connor, I want to put it out there for halftime hot takes and talk about who do we think is going to have a bigger impact next year. The 2 biggest names of this offseason, and that would be either Cade Cunningham starting in Detroit or Russell Westbrook as an addition to the Lakers.
I think my hot take here is even though Cade Cunningham is a man, he is still 21, and I think that Russ is going to play hard, and Russ is going to make a lot of highlights, and I think Russ overall is going to have a bigger impact than Cade Cunningham.
I'm going to go Cade Cunningham. I think the Cade Cunningham impact is going to be bigger. Basketball, of course, is a star-driven league, and while now we're seeing that teams are changing away from one star carrying a team, I think definitely he'll help transition Detroit to start to go into the right direction. The ceiling for Cade Cunningham, I think, is making the playoffs and going into the knockout tournament. I think that is the ceiling of where they're going, but I think he's going to help start them in the right direction where we're going to see that someone is going to get in a fight in that locker room on that Lakers team.
Well, that is, I would say that's a pretty cold take that there's going to be some emotional drama there on that Lakers squad. So, nevertheless, very excited to see who is going to have the bigger impact in this NBA season, Cade Cunningham or Russell Westbrook. And that's a pretty hot take.
That's a pretty hot take. You know what's good, hot or cold?
Daddles Coffee.
Exactly. So let's get back into it. We're going to go into our third quarter, and in time for our third quarter, we're going to continue our MLB Team of the Week series, and we're going to go to a town that should be all types of excited because not only did the Bucks help bring home some championships to Milwaukee, but there's someone who did a great job of winning free agency, and that is actually the Milwaukee Brewers. they made some monster moves as they acquired Eduardo Escobar, as well as Daniel Norris and John Curtis. If there is anyone out there that is playing baseball against the 63 and 43 Brewers, who on Monday when I was pulling this were 7 games ahead of the Reds, um, everyone needs to be watching because I think in the National League, this is definitely one of the contenders that you have to keep your eye on.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that they are starting to run away with the division, which I think can only help them as the season comes to an end and being able to make certain moves at certain times. I think that it definitely helps that they are not in the NL West. But yeah, no, definitely the Brewers have been playing well, and they added some great pieces and are having they're playing the Pirates right now in this current series, so should be able to sweep the Pirates. I believe the pitcher who the Brewers are going against tonight is not very good for the Pirates, which is pretty normal for the Pirates these days. So being able to rack up wins in the division is going to be really, really critical for for the Brewers to be able to potentially get into maybe a number 2 spot, things like that, and for sure avoid the wild card.
I think what the Brewers have going for them as well is that they are already doing well in their pitching categories. They're second in the ERA in Major League Baseball. They have the 5th lowest losses in pitchers, and they lead baseball with pitching strikes. As we've seen, especially, and I'm going to liken it to the Dodgers, who I'm assuming, Connor, when you say number 2 seed for them, that puts them behind the Dodgers.
Or the NL West champion, probably the Dodgers.
Probably the Dodgers. It's all about, in this baseball era, and always kind of with baseball, but right now it's all about where your pitching is. When we talked Toronto, what was their opportunity? My perspective, pitching. Now that we have Milwaukee, it is going to be that they have really good pitching, and they've just added some better pieces. They're able to do it, and especially they have a division that they don't have to press too hard to run away with it. As with the 7 wins and other teams selling a lot, especially sad to see Chicago fall apart again. It's very big to know that they're in the right spot to let everyone else kind of trudge through while they get this sort of easier schedule.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. They have their with the Cubs going down, I think. This division is definitely, for sure, Milwaukee's to lose. Very, very, very impressive there. One of the interesting things about Milwaukee, as I was doing my research, is they've been kind of working off of a 6-pitcher rotation. For those who maybe don't know, usually pitchers and teams will have 5 pitchers in their starting rotation. Milwaukee is utilizing 6 right now, which what does that mean? That means that you have more pitchers more innings spread out between more pitchers over time, which means those arms are going to stay fresher and fresher for the playoffs. I liken it to what the Suns got to do with Chris Paul, right? Chris Paul is somebody who usually can get hurt. They had a good backup point guard situation, so was able to take Chris Paul out a little bit, maybe not play all the minutes like a kind of the quote stud point guard would do these days. So definitely I appreciate what the Brewers are doing in terms of their pitching staff, and they just picked up one of their acquisitions, and some of their acquisitions were in the bullpen to only strengthen and bolster their bullpen. So there's a lot of good potential there for the Brewers, and get into the playoffs. And when you get into the playoffs, it all kind of goes from there. So it's all about making it in the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. If you can get yourself situated in the playoffs and then pick some good teams to play against, you can go on the right move. I want to pull their schedule that they have coming up for August. So you mentioned the Pirates. They also have the Giants starting this Friday, and they're playing them at home. Then they face the Cubs, the Pirates again. Then they have the Cardinals. Then they play some Washington, some Cincinnati. Then they finish out August with the Twins and a little bit more of the Giants. So obviously on their schedule, the Giants part feels a little bit intimidating and maybe a little bit of the Cardinals, but it really feels like they're just going to rack up win after win after win after win. And I'm going to put out my first hot take of the night. I think that the Brewers are going to be the first team to truly lock in their playoff spot because you have them, and then they are the second highest leading of the division of a group, which the White Sox have 8.5 over Cleveland. But I'm going to have that the Brewers are going to get there faster, and they're going to lock in their division first.
Oh, I could definitely see that for sure. You've got a lot of winnable games, not a good division, playing the Cubs a lot, playing the Pirates a lot, and you for sure can see that happening. I think that one of the big things that's going to be really interesting to watch and kind of follow is how they play against the Giants, because you've got strength on strength there of pitching and hitting. Who's gonna be better, the Giants hitting or the Brewers pitching? And I think that this could very well give us a sneak into, oh, you held me on fourth down, should have went for the points. But what does Coach Arians say? No risk it, no biscuit.
No risk it, no biscuit. You get good fiber from Triscuits.
You get good fiber from Triscuits. So, yeah, you've got strength on strength there, so it'll be really fun to watch how all that shakes out.
Can't wait. Love some good baseball. I know that we're going to keep doing these baseball team of the week segments as we get a little closer, even though, football season is so distracting for Connor and I. That's all we want to talk about and all we want to do. But I think we'll have some good playoff baseball takes to talk about soon, Connor.
Oh, for sure. And as things heat up, just like this pick that you threw, good job, Baker Mayfield. Thinking he's a thrower when he's really not. I mean, it's like it's real life or something.
It's in the game.
It's in the game. So, man, am I going a little bit back to being a Browns hater right now?
I can't believe you are, because you're so on the bandwagon. And this will tease us into our fourth quarter, as we're doing a great show here in our fourth quarter. I want to set it up as we get ready to transition. It is NFL camp time. There are definitely a bunch of teams out there, and Connor has been all on the creative juices, and I'm excited to see you throw these. So the way this segment's going to work is Connor and I are going to play a game of sort of Would You Rathers, and Connor's been just kind of coming up with these, and I've only read half of his text messages today. So Connor's going to just read one of these out loud, and I have to react first of my Would You Rathers out of the blue. So Connor, as we start the fourth quarter, what do you got?
And whoever's watching or listening and things like that, feel free to chime in as well. But Rutledge, as we talk about training camp, got to know, would you rather have to go through the entirety of training camp with only wearing closed-toed shoes the entire time, or having to wear gloves the entirety of training camp?
Do I get to take my shoes off when I'm sleeping?
You get 1 hour a day of either, no glove time or no shoe time, and you can pick when that hour is. 1 hour a day.
See, no glove time. I'm going to be saving those points up for bathroom time. It's fine. This is that type of show. No shoe time. You can't do it for sleep because you'd only get an hour. Would be horrible to break up your sleep. I'm going to go all day. Considering of the meetings and everything, I'm going to go all day in shoes. And we're just going to have to figure out the sleep part later. And I would do my hour of no shoes. Obviously, it would be for whenever I would shower during the day. So I'm going to go all day shoes.
Wow. Well, that is that interesting take there. And I think either way, you're going to have a lot of smell. Because if you think about it, both, you're going to either have smelly shoes, even in bed in the middle of the night, or smelly hands. And for somebody who loves his sleep as I do, it's very important to me to have, um, to have very, very good sleep. So I'm gonna say that I am into more, having my gloves on the entire time, and so I can let those feet breathe. No closed-toed shoes for Connor except on the practice field, and that is going to be really critical to helping me get that great sleep that I need to have a great camp.
All right, that's where we differ. That's 100% where we differ.
And that
I
that's another piece there. So next up, as Connor takes a commanding lead, about ready to make it a two. We're already make it a actually 3 possession game here once I hit this extra point. Um, Next, would you rather, Rutledge? Would you rather have a roommate in training camp that snores or has night terrors?
I'm gonna. Oof. Um, Night terrors. And by the way, Steven, I know you're watching. Drop some things in the comments. Uh, Night terrors, and here's why. I'm gonna go back in time to Hurricane Irma and how I sleep. I am an individual, and I don't dream a lot when I sleep, but I'm an individual that when I sleep, it's like I lay down, and then it's just all of a sudden off, and then back on again, and back on again has been 6 to 8 to 12 hours later. The night terrors wouldn't bother me, as I'm definitely a hard sleeper through the night. When Hurricane Irma passed over my house, back in I think it was 2017, I 100% slept through it. My wife and a friend of ours staying at our house, they were awake and watching it, and I fell asleep, and I just let the whole thing just sort of pass me by. I was not there for it at all. So I would rather go night terrors to know that if someone's like, wake up and have a moment, I'm not going to notice it. But snoring, because I can't get settled, and my dad used to snore hardcore, and we used to take a lot of road trips, that is not me. So I'm going to go night terrors.
Wow. Okay. All right. I think both are no fun, especially for the person having night terrors. Don't like that at all. But I'm going to go snoring, and here's why. The I would rather have that person who snores, because you would still, it's almost like a little more rhythmic and a little more consistent, and you can get the earplugs, right? Night terrors is you're going from 0 to 100 real quick. And, as it says,
Oh.
you're screaming. A night terror is not a. You would have to be sleeping so incredibly hard to finish, to be able to sleep through a night terror. So we're going to differ again here.
Steven reminded me in the comments he used to snore when him and I lived together, and I still would go with night terrors.
Wow,
It's be able
there
to
you
hear
go.
Steven through the wall, I tell you. All
You
right.
know, one of my college buddies, we called him Old Noisy Nose due
Ooh.
to due to his snoring. So finally, as we round out here this fourth quarter, Rutledge, and a little bit more of a serious topic, which rookie quarterback situation, would you rather be in? Would you rather have the camp situation of Trey Lance, Kyle Trask, or uh, or Trevor Lawrence?
These are tough. These are good. I would rather be. Oh man. I think I would rather be Trevor Lawrence, and here's why. Trevor Lawrence is a really talented quarterback, and he's on a very bad team, and he's with a coach that there's a lot of pressure on. So if it goes south for me, people are going to blame coaching. They're not going to blame me as much as they're going to blame the whole coaching and the system or anything. So it's going to preserve me and my role and my ability to kind of stay on that team. Maybe I can get my agent to get me traded out of there. Um, But I'm going to go with that, where it's, lots of question marks, but I know that I can still prove something, and then if it fails, it's not my fault.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, so I'm going to pick Kyle Trask here, and here's why. And I know, Wild, I'm picking a Florida Gator quarterback that I would want to be in his position. With Trevor Lawrence, you've got with Trevor Lawrence, ton of upside for sure, but it could be a situation if Urban Meyer decides to have health issues again and have to step away. Trevor Lawrence gets hit a lot, bad team. You can get real bad mojo real quick as a quarterback. I think, being in that Kyle Trask position where Tom Brady is on his way out, I think that Kyle Trask is going to be able to be on a successful team, probably get some playing time as the Bucs, start to, play well and have big leads in the fourth quarter. And I think that Kyle Trask in training camp is going to be able to totally soak up everything Tom Brady wants to do and an offensive-minded coach who's been around the league forever. So I'm going to take Kyle Trask.
Well, big to see how we differ with that. Last one, really short one, Connor, before we go for the evening. I have one. Would you rather be on a team that's on Hard Knocks or no?
Oh, gosh, no. I would not want to be on a team that's on Hard Knocks. Way too many distractions.
I agree. I would rather be on a team that is just focused 100% on the field.
And we finally ended. So, and a good way to come back to Madden, if I don't say so myself.
Oh, looks good for you on paper. Definitely a vintage me 10-point game. 10 points up.
10 points. You did score first, though.
I did. I did score first, and I did lose first.
Oh, man. But, well, Rutledge, what a show.
What a show. Good to be back. Good to talk about Daddle's Coffee. Make sure to use your promo code FSS to get 10% off. Other than that, this week, Connor, I want to see, how are you feeling about the Brewers over the next 30 days? With all those series, do you see them having any sweeps in the next 30 days?
I definitely see them sweeping the Pirates tonight. Or, and I definitely see at least one Cubs sweep. So I'm calling 2 sweeps for sure in the next 30 days.
I'm calling 3 sweeps, and I'm going to boldly say one of those is against the Giants.
Wow.
Hot pick.
Hot pick, hot takes.
Getting ready to do the Go Bowling at the Glen. They're going to Watkins Glen. That means, of course, last week was won by Eric Amarola. Hopefully you had him on your fantasy lineup. But as we're coming into this one, who do you have would be your winner at the road course of Watkins Glen? Or not your winner, your pole sitter?
It's having those road course races is definitely, obviously, totally different. But I'm going to go as it relates to the odds for this race. I'm going to pick old Brad Keselowski. I think he's got a good chance to win the pole.
I am going to go in this, and I'm going to give it to my road course favorite of all time, Chase Elliott. He's won the last 2 road courses. Definitely big things coming for him as tries to make a rebound as they're going through the regular and the NASCAR season.
Well, good to know.
Good to know.
Good to know. So, well, that's it, Rutledge. Anything else you want to share with our adoring fans before we sign off?
As always, that's happy to see. I want to actually get the NASCAR top 5 in points as they're pushing through. The top 5 in points right now in NASCAR are Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Kyle Busch, and Joey Logano. So that season is starting to wind towards the end of the playoffs. They will start to go into the beginning of the playoffs after this month. NASCAR is in its end of its regular season. I'll be at the final race when I go to Daytona at the end of the month. So Connor, I'll be back in Florida soon.
Oh, go to Buc-ee's and bring some Daddle's coffee.
I will definitely have to bring some Daddle's coffee, and we'll meet at Buc-ee's.
There you go. Well, I hope you have a great night, and I wish all of our fans and viewers and listeners a good evening.